and your children are turned into mindless vassals who now they look up to some twit instead of looking up to Thomas Jefferson or looking up to Nikola Tesla or looking up to Magellan. I mean, kids, Magellan's a lot cooler than Justin Bieber. He circumnavigated with one ship the entire planet. He was killed by wild natives before they got back to Portugal. And when they got back, there was only like 11 people alive of the 200 and something crew, and the entire ship was rotting down to the waterline. That's destiny. That's will. That's striving. That's being a trailblazer, an explorer, going into space, mathematics, quantum mechanics, the secrets of the universe. It's all there. Life is fiery with its beauty. It's incredible detail. Tuning into it. They want to shatter your mind talking about Justin Bieber.
Hello out there. Happy Monday, everybody. We're on the freaking air. Here we are. Look at us. We made it back another week. We survived. We did not survive. In fact, we thrived. And today's going to be a little bit different than usual, I would say, because we have 110 reasons why BIP-110 is a bad idea, according to Michael Saylor. We're going to go through that together today. But that is according to Michael Saylor himself. His words, not mine. We're going to go through them, though. Okay, let's see what's going on today. Let's see. We got 9:40 a.m. Okay. Doesn't look like Brandon's going to be joining us today. I just got a message from him. But I was kind of worried anyway, because I didn't want to get halfway through the list and then have him involved. So it probably worked out. It probably worked out that he's not. I would have liked to have him here for the full discussion, because I think that Brandon and I kind of see a little bit differently on this one, which is good. Which is good, in my opinion. I think that overall, kind of big picture here, I do really believe that this is going to be a positive thing for Bitcoin. It doesn't seem that way right now, especially if you go onto Twitter. It seems like there's a lot of animosity amongst Bitcoiners, but it's a good thing. I think that people are learning a lot in this. I've learned a lot in this myself. And I think there's a couple issues that I see, again, before we get too far into anything, is, people have a very closed mind around this subject right now. The second you put BIP-110 in your profile, you've kind of shut off your mind at that point. You're not willing to learn or listen or hear the other side of it. You're just pushing your own narrative now because you have skin in the game. Me personally, I don't have any skin in the game. I don't. I think Bitcoin is money. I don't think spam should be on Bitcoin. I don't think BIP-110 is a solution to that. And so that's kind of where I sit on it myself. And I've kind of been thinking about what happens here, because we really don't know. Even though it appears at this moment that BIP-110 is going to fail miserably, it might not. We probably won't know until that exact block, because that's where it's mandatory. So right now it's optional. People can signal if they want to. You can point your node towards activating BIP-110. Miners have activated BIP-110. There's a list of about 40 businesses and miners that have signaled so far that they're going to be activating BIP-110, but we won't know for sure until the mandatory activation date, or not date, block height, I should say. And we're expecting that in mid-August, I'd say. So a couple weeks from now. We won't know though, because who knows? There's probably 5 or 6 big miners that are really going to decide the future of Bitcoin here. I think anyways, not the exact future, but they'll decide if they're going to activate BIP-110, which is going to lead to a potential hard fork, a chain split, and then who knows from there? Who knows what's going to happen? I have no idea. I really think that even if the BIP-110 side does lose and hard fork, I don't think there's going to be much of a market for it personally. We've kind of seen what's happened with BSV, BCH, Bitcoin Cash, and I would imagine that this new BIPcoin would be similar. It might stick around, but I don't think it's going to have any sort of real momentum. Again, this is assuming that the activation fails, they hard fork. I just don't see much of a market for it. myself. But if it happens to activate and Bitcoin does change at a consensus level, I would honestly feel much differently about it myself. I hadn't really thought about what would happen if it does activate too much because I didn't think that there was a chance. But I guess we won't know until the mandatory signaling at the specific block height, which is what we should probably figure that out before we go any further here, because I think that's a good place to start. When does BIP-110 activate? So the block height of 9.6, no. Okay, so that's not very helpful. 963,648. Does that make sense? 963,648. 963. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's in about 4,000 blocks. Seems like a long time. I guess so. It's usually a good measurement for those who kind of like doing mental math in your head. 1,000 blocks is usually 1 week-ish. Still seems a little bit high because I thought it was in the next difficulty adjustment. No, I guess it's this difficulty adjustment, one more difficulty adjustment, full one, and then I believe it's in the next difficulty adjustment after that. So we have 721 blocks remaining in this difficulty adjustment. As you can see here, 721. And then there'll be 2,048 in the next difficulty adjustment, full one. And then after that, that is when the mandatory activation kicks in. So what did that say? 963,648. So yeah, I don't, I didn't even share it. Sorry, everybody. My bad. This is what I meant to share. It just shows 721 blocks remaining. So we're currently at 958,895. And it's going to be on block height 963,648. So that's about just under 4,000 blocks, right? No, just under 5,000 blocks. Yeah. 40 some hundred blocks. And it is, wow. So there's still quite a bit of time. I thought it was closer than that. Unless I'm wrong, I should double check that because that answer doesn't really seem. It seems right, but that seems like longer because, like I said, it's about 1,000 blocks per 1 week. Somebody in the chat might be able to help me out here. 20 days. Yeah, see, that seems okay. When is mandatory signaling of BIP-110? What block? What block? I'm pretty sure that's right. I just want to double check. What block is mandatory? Oh, no. Okay. See, for the BIP-110's temporary soft fork, mandatory signaling begins at block 961,632. So yeah, okay. No, I was right then. I'm glad I double checked that because that did seem long. That did seem long. I don't know why it gave me that other one though. So the lock-in date is much later, but I don't know what it looks like. It could fail right away from what I understand anyways. At this specific block, miners are required to set version bit 4 in their block headers to signal support and readiness for the new protocol data limits. If the required 55% threshold for early lock-in isn't met prior, hitting block height 961,632 initiates this mandatory window. So yeah, that would be about 3,000 blocks. Yeah, 3,000 blocks, which is about 3 weeks. That seems right. That seems right. So anyways, I really don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do if it does end up changing, because it's a pretty big, it doesn't seem like a lot because there's only like 7 changes, I believe, to it. But I don't really, that's not really the point to me. Like, I think that Bitcoin will probably survive. I mean, it will survive either way, whether it activates or it fails. No doubt about that. I just feel like my own perspective, my own interpretation of Bitcoin, I might have been wrong about it. If they're able to change the consensus rule this easily in Bitcoin, I don't know. We'll have to see. Time will tell. I've just been thinking, like, if that's the case, man, I might have thought differently about Bitcoin. I don't think it's going to succeed. I think it's going to fail. But I don't know. That's the thing. Nobody knows right now. Nobody knows until that exact block height and then the 6 to 20 blocks that follow that. But yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I'm sure I'll feel differently after either way. But I don't know, man. Then the question is, like, if not Bitcoin, then what? You know what I mean? That's what I'm struggling with right now. If not Bitcoin, then what? Because I really believe deeply that Bitcoin is the only solution we have, the only tool that we have. There's nothing else. We're never going to vote our way out of this mess. There's never going to be something that comes along that's better than what Bitcoin is. And I'll just feel a lot differently about Bitcoin if it does happen to activate and succeed. It's kind of scary to me. Because, like I said, even though it is, people might argue that it's a very small change overall, just the fact that it can be changed that easily at a consensus level. Because you have to remember here too that policy and consensus are much different things. And it seems like a lot of people are really tying them together almost, where a lot of people are still mad at Core 30 for changing the policy in version 30. And they're taking it out thinking that BIP-110 is a solution to it, when they're two different things. Core 30 was a policy level change, and this is a consensus change. These are two much different things. And to change the laws of Bitcoin, which what I would consider to be the consensus, if you can change it this easily, this quickly, then I'll probably admit that I was wrong about Bitcoin, and you may never see me again. Might happen. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I've just been, I will think much differently about Bitcoin. That's for sure. Even if I end up holding my wealth in Bitcoin because it can't be debased, I think, that's what I mean. Like, I think, because you can change the laws. You can change, if you can change it this easily over something that really doesn't solve anything, then I might admit I was wrong. But again, I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see. I see a lot of, see, this is the kind of stuff, like, good riddance. Okay. Yeah. I just have no time for that. People are tying their whole identity to this thing and keeping a very closed mind about it. And I really think that a lot of people are wrong about it, just completely wrong. And they've been using a lot of emotional tactics to try to get people on their side. And I mean, that's what you got to do. That's what a war is. I don't think this is a spam war. I think it's a narrative war. And to me, the narrative of spam sucks. I hate spam more than anybody here probably. But I just don't think that BIP-110 solves anything. So why would we prove to the world that Bitcoin can be changed this easily if it's not going to make a difference? So that's my opinion. And like I said, this is probably going to be, I've been pretty active on Twitter for the last week, just talking about this and seeing what people are talking about. But it just seems like the same regurgitated shit over and over again from one side. And very emotional, like name calling, stuff like this. Like, there's no reason for it. And I think on the flip side of things, if it does fail, I really hope that a lot of Bitcoiners stick around. I really do. And I think that it is, that's definitely the more likely scenario right now. I think it's going to be an absolute Hail Mary. And, something weird has to go down in order for this thing to activate. So like I said, I'm not too concerned about it. I'm more concerned about just how, I thought highly of Bitcoiners overall. And that's really changed my mind in the last couple weeks. Just people acting like children, letting their ego get in the way, being more emotional than logical, making accusations that are really based on nothing. And from some pretty big names too, like Matthew Cratter. I used to have a lot of respect for Matthew Cratter. I don't anymore. And that's fine. That's just my opinion. Nobody gives a shit about that. I just don't like how he's handled the situation, the accusations that he's made, just the obsession. Like, man, I thought people had Trump derangement syndrome before. And so maybe I was wrong about that too. Maybe I thought a little bit higher of Bitcoiners overall, but that's okay. Bitcoin doesn't really care what I think. It doesn't care what Matthew Cratter thinks. It takes a lot to change, hopefully anyways, to change consensus. And we'll see how it plays out on the other side of it. But anyways, today we're going to spend some time talking about Saylor's 110 reasons. And there's 110 of them, obviously. So this could be fun. Could be here for hours. No, I'll try to, if there's one that's just kind of then we'll just move past it. But I think this will be good. Because me personally, I know a lot of people on the BIP-110 side all of a sudden hate Saylor, but I'm a fan. Saylor's been one of the most important people in Bitcoin's history, and he's been a very net positive for Bitcoin. And like I said, it's turned into a very emotional thing with a lot of name calling and just unnecessary accusations. But this is kind of where, before we get into Saylor stuff, this is kind of how I feel about it too. This is my thoughts. Like, again, I really believe that everybody who's on, not everybody, but the majority of people who are signaling BIP-110, I really believe that they have good intentions. They see Bitcoin as money, and they think that BIP-110 is a solution to it. And so all this arguing, it's like they're looking at things from two different angles at it. Like, they're not really arguing whether BIP-110 is a technical solution to it or not, or what kind of implications it's going to have on Bitcoin later. They're mad at Saylor and Adam Back and Bitcoin Core, and they think that BIP-110 is a solution. But to me, it's not. I think the solution is adoption. I think that's the only thing that is going to eliminate spam overall, is just make it unaffordable for these people to put spam on the network. And we've already seen that. If you look at the objective data on things like ordinals and runes and all this other bullshit on Bitcoin, they're kind of just fading away organically. And that's really what the argument has always been, is that if you want people to stop spamming the network, make it too expensive to do that. You're not going to change anything in the protocol itself, because people have and will continue to find ways around that. And many BIP-110 people admit that this isn't going to stop spam. So then it's like, okay, then you're just fighting an emotional battle at that point then. But this is kind of how I see it as well. There is no solution other than proof of work and fees. Other words, make it too expensive for them to spam the network. That's the only solution to it. And again, I'm seeing the comments here, a lot of emotions. I'm going to try to keep this as calm and logical as possible, because I really don't give a shit what you think in the comment section. I don't. So you can save your breath, save your energy. You're not going to hurt my feelings. So there is no solution other than proof of work and fees. There is no solution other than proof of work and fees. In other words, BIP-110 is not the solution. And you can agree with that or not. Again, I'm not here to convince you what to do. That's the last thing that I would want to do, is convince you to do one thing or the other. The beauty of Bitcoin is that you get to choose. That's your vote. And unlike the fiat system, your vote actually counts. It's kind of cool, isn't it? What a concept. What a concept. Okay, let's find Saylor's 110 reasons here. Okay, share. Actually, I'm going to get through a couple comments here. We'll maybe start this in about 5 minutes. We'll start going through the list. Ginger's here. Good morning, Ginger. Good to see you, buddy. Sats and Sunsets, the Smith. Maria 2500 is here. Good morning, Maria 2500. Jake, 21 Hats. Scotty Boy, is this the right place for an early night? Sounds like Scotty Boy's heading to bed. So thanks for popping by today, Scotty Boy. Buck52 says gravity always wins. Is it gravity or is it just positive and negative forces? I don't know. Bitcoin Barber's here. He says, good morning, Bitcoiners. Holy mackerel, it is fogging hot here in Nebraska, driving through Nebraska today. Well, have a safe drive, my friend. En route to, are you heading home or are you heading to Colorado? Morrow 21 is here. Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning, Morrow. Look at this, Chuck. With all the name calling in the chat, we got guys like Chuck buying memberships. And it looks like Maria 2500 was the recipient of that membership. So thank you, Chuck. I really appreciate that, my friend. Chuck with an early memby to start the day, start the week. There it is. Maria was the recipient. Thank you, Chuck. Congrats, Maria. And we got Bitcoin Barber says, Colorado next. Getting ready to shift to mountain time. So what would Nebraska be probably? I'm guessing if you're switching to Nebraska to mountain time from Nebraska, Nebraska's got to be central time then, right? Mountain time, I believe, is 1 hour behind me. So that would mean you're heading west, right? Yeah. Heat is a sign of productive entropy. The massacre. Good morning. Productive entropy. Praetorian's here. Good morning, Praetorian. Rockabilly. Letha, Frumble 2021. Good morning, Letha. Nice to see Letha today. Andre's here. Andre Stacks Sats. The man. Captain. Morning, Captain. Good to see you, buddy. There's Chuck. Styles Row Robert. Good morning, everyone. Have a super week. Keep stacking. Amen. Bieber was in the World Cup. Yeah, he was. He was in the World Cup. Old Biebs. Parasite mine a couple blocks. Nice. I don't know too much about Parasite. I just like their business model. I don't know where they sit on everything, but I do like their business model. I think that's how it should be. So Parasite, for those who don't know, is I believe they're a mining pool. And if you point your hash towards Parasite, I don't really like the name. I think they could have done a better job with that, Parasite. But you can point your hash rate to Parasite. And if your miner ends up hitting a block, then you get 1 Bitcoin, and then the rest of it is split with everybody who's also in the Parasite pool based on hash rate. So it's a pretty good way to do it, I think. I think it's kind of a good happy medium between lottery mining and pool mining, because even if you hit the lottery with it, you still get 1 Bitcoin. But you still have, if other people hit it, then you also get a pretty good chunk of Bitcoin from them too. Like, I don't know how many people would be mining with Parasite, but that's pretty cool. They mine a couple blocks. Sharon B's buying membies. Love to see that. Thank you, Sharon B. It is very nice to see you this morning, Sharon. And it looks like Timber NTM was the recipient. The Princess of the Universe. Here we are, the Princess of the Universe. Sharon B says, good morning, Mother Duckers. Good morning, Sharon B. Sketchucation. Good morning, Rich. Morrow says, okay, I don't know if I'll have time to go through all these comments. I'll look for some good ones. Saylor is a fiat maxi that's planning to spam the block space with this digitization and tokenized products. BIP-110 is a sentinel of the sacred time chain. Knots is freedom to user, not limited core. Yeah. It's a fair point. I run knots myself because that's a policy decision, not a full consensus change. So Saylor doesn't want BIP-110 because he doesn't want to shut the door on parasitic use cases. BIP-110. Saylor is a shitcoiner. He's a pro money printer, and he's clearly compromised via the Epstein files. See, this is the stuff I'm talking about here. Saylor's compromised via the Epstein files. Uncle Jimmy, I love you, buddy, but that is that's just stupid to say. You really believe that Michael Saylor was in the Epstein files? You really believe that? Like, what's your basis for that? That's what I want to know. Was it the one tweet that Matthew Cratter posted? That's your one thing. That's like believing that Trump was in the Epstein files because Elon made a post about it one day. And then that was the last he talked about it. And then him and Trump are friends a couple months later. It's just, I mean, you can find whatever narrative you want based on the decision that you made. So I could see it. I don't think that that's the case at all. Michael Saylor being in the Epstein files. Could you imagine Michael Saylor on Epstein Island? Just take a second. Forget all the fucking nonsense that's going on right now. Just imagine Michael Saylor on Epstein Island. You really believe that that guy's compromised because of Epstein Island? I mean, if you believe that, then I don't know. Then this whole show is probably going to be a waste of time. If there's actually people that believe that, then again, I've lost a lot of faith in that in people that I thought were fairly logical people. BSV tanked because it loosened the rules. BIP-110 does the opposite. It tightens the rules. Oh God, more CSAM. Ugh. Dr. K says, respects to all. That's how it should be. Switch my note at home from Core 29 to knots with BIP-110. I'm just a humble nobody pleb, and I did that because I want Bitcoin to be muddy only, not file storage, not spam. Fair. It's your decision. Absolutely your decision. And I respect that as well. 20 days. Okay. So around the end of August, it's got to be mid-August then, Scotty, because there's only 11 days left in July. It's got to be early part of August. Saylor has unequivocally demonstrated his interest in creating products, paper derivative products. Well, I mean, I remember a time when strategy was pumping, when strategy went from $100 per share to $450 per share. And all Bitcoiners thought that Saylor was God, and Saylor was doing a very noble thing of using Bitcoin to destroy the fiat system. I remember that. Okay, I don't have I don't think we're going to have time to get through all these. Sorry, folks. Without Bitcoin, it is dark. I agree with that. Look at this. Buck50 says, here's a fun one. My financial advisor was asking me when he should buy or sell strategy. Well, I would say now would probably be the worst time to be selling strategy, personally. Without Bitcoin, we go back to our shitty way of life. Fiat misery. That is true. The deep state fiat powers can put bad stuff on the Bitcoin blockchain, then criminalize node running. Oh, man. I'm trying to keep it very respectful, very logical here. I just think that horse has been beat to death. And I think that the likelihood of that happening is fairly low. And if I was on the other side of the argument there, I would say, hey, let's rile up a bunch of people. We can show how easy it is to change Bitcoin. And then when we want to, we can come up with some other catastrophic reason for changing it. And everybody will be like, oh yeah, this is the new thing we need to do. It kind of, I'm not going to say it, but it's just kind of, okay, Jessica, you're out of here. How do I depin that? Jessica, how do I block people in here? talking about finance surveys. I just think that this is a really weak argument, because I also don't think that BIP-110 really solves that. And I don't think that anybody admits that it does. That's the stupid part to me. It's like people, they keep saying we're in this spam war, we're in this spam war. And then you ask them, do you think that BIP-110 is going to get rid of spam? No. And then they come up with all these analogies of securing your house or putting up a fence. And it's like, well, the answer is no. You could have stopped there. So if this scenario plays out, and here's the thing for me is like, what if it fails? Like, are all you guys just going to leave because you've talked so much shit? It was actually a good post from Samson Mao this morning. He's like, people are talking so much shit about Bitcoin as it is right now. If this fails, are you going to hold it? Are you still going to hold it after all these claims against Saylor, criminalizing the blockchain? Like, are you still going to hold Bitcoin, or are you going to be gone? Because it just seems kind of stupid to me. I'm not conflating the two, buddy. I'm not. The soft fork's likely going to fail based on current signaling. I'm not saying that it's going to. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it looks like it's likely to fail. So then it either dies or there's a hard fork after that. I'm not conflating the two here. Crater is a scandal. Matthew Kramer was college roommates with new Fed chair Kevin Warsh, if that tells you anything. Who's Matthew Kramer? Yeah, I agree with this. Except I don't really like I agree with you in the respect part, but the whole narrative of like people putting bad stuff like that's what really got a lot of people emotionally involved in this. And it's just not true. It's just not true. And people just don't get past that. And then all of a sudden, if you oppose that, then you're compromised or you support pedophilia. Like it's such a bad, weak argument to me. It just is. And again, based on the consensus of Bitcoin, you've always been able to put, I think it's up to 1 megabyte of arbitrary data. That's the whole thing. Core 30 was a policy change, the filters for people running nodes. You could always put up to 1 megabyte of arbitrary data on Bitcoin. That was the law. Not that anybody did it. It was always available to do. Core 30 had a provision or a filter that said you couldn't put more than X amount of information data through the op return. Then they realized that it wasn't working. They realized that it wasn't doing anything. People were finding other ways. And if you look at the objective data showing how much arbitrary data was on Bitcoin before Core 130 and after, there's hardly any change. It might have actually went down since the op return filter was changed. So that's a policy change, though. That's the whole point of what we're talking about here. That's a policy change versus a consensus. Saylor's a complete crook. Man, I think this is just a good sign of the times. It's just a sign of the Bitcoin bear market right now. And you know, there's a reason why I didn't really want to get involved with all this shit, just because people are so emotional about it. So emotional. It's just like, what are we doing here? Let's have a conversation. How is Saylor a crook? Tell me how he's a crook. I've called him before all this stuff happened. I called him a greasy salesman, but that's not a crook. Or that's not somebody who's on Epstein Island. Those are different things, man. Like, to call somebody a crook or accuse him of raping children, like, for what? Based on what evidence? It's just stupid how, like I said, I thought people with TDS were bad. And man, honestly, what has he done for Bitcoin? Saylor? I mean, you could go to YouTube and search Michael Saylor, and you can see hours and hours and hours and hours of him explaining Bitcoin to people. People like us, people in the mainstream. The Robert Breedlove and Michael Saylor series is probably the best explanation of Bitcoin that I've found myself. What has he done for Bitcoin? Like I said, a year ago, everybody was praising this guy for creating products that destroyed the fiat system. That's what Saylor always was. That's what strategy always was. It was an attack on the fiat system. And now because people are down money, they're just looking for somebody to blame it. It's sad. It's really sad. Sad to be a part of. Saylor literally supports money printing, and he said Bitcoin can't be peer-to-peer money. Okay. Saylor literally supports money printing. Literally supports money printing. What? And has said Bitcoin can't be peer-to-peer money. Okay. That neither of those two things make any sense. This is going differently than I expected today, but that's okay. I don't want spam on Bitcoin blockchain. I want Bitcoin to be only money, not data storage. Okay, so then I guess my question to you guys then, if you really believe that Bitcoin is data storage right now, like when was the last time you used Bitcoin? People in the chat here, when was the last time you sent a Bitcoin transaction on the mainnet? When you're sending a Bitcoin transaction on the mainnet, does it feel like you're using data storage, or does it feel like you're sending a peer-to-peer transaction to somebody that nobody can stop? Nobody can change. Nobody can censor. And look at the data for yourself. Look at the data. The data shows that there's way more arbitrary data or spam being put on the blockchain before the V30 update. So the filters didn't work then. They don't work now. And there's no solution to spam other than making it too expensive for people to spam. BIP-110 does not solve the spam issue. That's the whole point of the argument here. BIP-110 will not get rid of spam from Bitcoin. And like I said, most BIP-110 people acknowledge that. So then it's like, what are we still talking about? It just seems like it's more of people are mad and they're trying to make a point. But that's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Censorship of any form is dangerous. And you might believe that it's data storage. I don't. Every time I send Bitcoin on the mainnet, which is quite often, I feel like an absolute gangster. The fact that I can send it at whatever time I want to without checking in with anybody or asking permission, knowing that if I pay a high enough fee, my transaction will be put into a block. That's how I feel about it as somebody who uses Bitcoin as money. I do not see it as a data storage. I'm running a node right here, right now. I run knots on that node. Will I for much longer? I don't know. Because the arguments just get weaker and weaker to me. And it seems like they're almost trying to like make this a thing by just continuously talking about it over and over and over and over and over again. It's just weird. It's weird to me. Like nobody was doing this before it became a topic, right? Like we know that. Nobody was doing this before when there was no filter. Before this BIP-110 thing, nobody was putting any harmful things on the network, right? Like we all agree with that. But was just keep talking about it because we want it to happen. It's weird to me. The whole thing is weird. Ordinals is done anyways. Like, is anybody still using ordinals? Bitcoin's already priced these people out because here's the thing. Here's the thing about Bitcoin that makes it different than anything else. Even if there was spam put onto the network and it continued and continued, eventually it's not. Eventually it's not going to continue. You know why? because eventually the people will realize that there's no value to doing that, and they cannot create more units to keep spamming. Eventually, the spammers will run out of Satoshis. There's no way to print or create Satoshis. So eventually that ends organically. Eventually that ends, like we're seeing already. Ordinals, nobody uses it. When was the last time you saw a big influx of ordinals? Like for a while there was every 3 weeks, fees would shoot way up because it was the ordinals and the runes were taking up all the space on the blockchain. That's just not the case anymore because the spammers are running out of credits. The spammers are running out of Satoshis to spam the network. And if it hasn't already happened, it will certainly happen in the future. That's how Bitcoin works. It's a fixed supply of these things. You cannot create them out of thin air like you can in the fiat system and continuously spam. That's the filter in Bitcoin. It doesn't have to be a policy change or a consensus change. The filter in Bitcoin is that you cannot create units out of nothing. That's what I go back to there. Proof of work is a solution to it. Eventually you will see the light. Yeah. Okay. I'll see the light. Okay. All right. I'll see the light. All right. Again, I don't really, it's hilarious to me. I do the show every morning. This is the 568th stream. There's always people in the chat. It's always a very friendly, welcoming environment. And as soon as you put BIP-110 in the title, you have people showing up, coming out of the woodworks to share their opinion. And the people who are usually here, oh, I thought this said liar. That's one of my favorite things happening right now is when somebody makes an argument, you just call them a liar. Maybe I'm in the wrong echo. That's a problem. Maybe I'm in the wrong echo chamber, but I only see good in BIP-110 because nobody's willing to talk about the second order effects of it. It's just, oh yeah, we hate spam. We want Bitcoin as money. Run BIP-110. Saylor's a Fed. Adam Back was on the island. Bitcoin cores captured. Run BIP-110. It's the same shit over and over again. But the conversation that nobody's wanting to have is that it doesn't solve anything. It just doesn't solve anything. And you can be as excited or emotional as you want to, but you gotta do a lot to change Bitcoin. So all the words and all the live chats and all the comments and all the arguments, they're just things. Oh yeah, I'm not looking at any more comments with CSAM in it. That's I just want Bitcoin to continue being hard money. It is. That's the whole point. It is. It is hard money today, as it is. And this is the most important part. We must work to disconfirm our beliefs. That's how everybody ended up in Bitcoin. Literally, both sides of the aisle here. Both people, everybody got into Bitcoin because they were willing to have an open mind. And all of a sudden that's changed. But again, I think it's because all these very emotional, supercharged topics were introduced into this conversation when they really have no relevance. And it might not appear this way, but I really believe that Bitcoin isn't perfect as it is right now. I think that we have a lot of work to do in terms of the governance of Bitcoin. I do, but I don't think it's something that we need to force either. I don't think it's a change you need to force. I think that issues come up and then you find solutions to it. That's how Bitcoin has made it this far. But when you change the laws, when you give the ability to change the laws this easily, that just opens it up to a whole slew of things down the road. And Bitcoin has a lot of people who want it to fail, a lot of people. And they see here that they don't need a whole bunch of hash rate. to make changes to the network. Again, I really don't think it's unless 2 or 3 of the large mining companies activate on the mandatory date, then this isn't even a conversation. It's just not. So, but it is what it is. And like I said, this is going to be kind of the last time I talk about it, because people are just losing their minds over it, man. And they're taking it too personally. They're unfollowing, blocking, unsubscribing. It's nonsense. So we're going to have this conversation today. I don't know how long it's going to be, but then I'm not going to talk about it again until it happens, till it's over, because it's just not worth my time, man. We get like 3 months of summer here in the prairies. We get like 3 months of summer, and we've already missed 2 of them because the weather has been so bad. So every second that I spend on Twitter or arguing about this stuff, it destroys me inside a little bit here. What are my thoughts on the 75% discount on ordinals? I don't give a fuck about ordinals. I don't. If people want to waste Bitcoin putting bullshit on the network, I do not care. And that's what's killing them, is because nobody cares. In order for something like the ordinals to succeed, people have to value it. People have to care. You can only spam Bitcoin for so long without being able to print more credits to spam it. That's the whole game here. That's proof of work. That's literally my entire argument about this thing, is I do not care. And neither should you. The reason why Core 30 made the opportune filter more is because people are finding more harmful ways to put spam on the network. Even though that filter was in place, people were finding other ways, more harmful ways through their eyes, to put spam on the network. That, to me, is more of an issue than using the opportune to do it. Because you can always prune it later. The people talking about, like, we're going to run out of data storage, please. And this is kind of what I mentioned last week too, is like, you can think about Bitcoin as money. That's fine. Bitcoin is the ledger. It's a time chain. And just like an old accounting book, we're full of transactions where you'd put office expense. You'd debit your expense, you'd credit your bank balance. That would be an entry into your accounting ledger. That's a ledger. People sending money to each other, that's always going to be there. That's the time chain. It's recording transactions, me sending to you, you sending to somebody else. That's the ledger. The ordinals, the inscriptions, all this other bullshit, it doesn't go on the ledger. It's like an index on that ledger, on the book. And you don't have to run that on your node. You can decide not to. That's the whole policy thing. That's what knots is. You don't have to care. Nobody does care. I don't care. And they're going to eventually just disappear because they can't create units without real energy. And at some point, the spammers will run out of credits. That's the whole argument here. That's the whole argument here. I'm exactly the opposite. I've gained more respect for Matt and lost respect for you. That's okay. I don't know who you are. I don't give a fuck who you are. And you're free to go anytime. I don't care. I'm not going to find things to talk about and claim that we're going to do it with big hurrah, hurrah, hurrah. We're going to use Bitcoin as just money. Bitcoin's going to be money again if we just trust this one guy to run everything and really flex our muscles here, just so I can stay in 3 cents is good books. No, it doesn't make any sense. It's going to fail. And I'm just curious who's going to be here on the other side of it. See, this is just, yeah, it's a good point, Sats and Sunsets. I was thinking the same. Matthew Crowder was roommates with the Fed chair. Yeah. I don't, is that true? I don't know. That could be, that could just be a rumor, but I don't care. I don't care if he was. I don't judge people based on one thing that they've said or one thing that they've done. You know, it's just like the logical part of my brain is seeing really what's going on here. And when you're speaking emotionally and you have all this other shit in your brain, then you can't see or think clearly. And it's very obvious, very apparent to me that that's what's happening. So even if Crowder was, I wouldn't think any less of him. Do I like the Federal Reserve? No. But just because they were roommates before Bitcoin was even a thing, I don't think that has much of an implication on anything. And that's the one thing that I've seen from the BIP-110 side is they'll like find one thing. Like Michael Saylor was in a email from Epstein. All of a sudden, he was on Epstein Island. All of a sudden, he's compromised because somebody mentioned him in an email with Jeffrey Epstein. It just doesn't make any sense. It's a very backwards way of thinking. If not this, then you have to be that, right? Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's too black and white here, man. It's too black and white. BIP-110 is how Bitcoin works for 16 years before core. No, it didn't. It's just a wrong thing to say. Like this is just a wrong thing to say. Because core didn't change consensus. Core changed the policy and the filters. This is just wrong. Like it's actually embarrassing. I'm not a very technical guy, and you know, I don't claim to be, but like even I understand this. And so that's the whole thing for me is like people who have no understanding of this are just very emotional and they're taking it out on other people. It's silly. It's silly. Saylor is a capitalist. I would agree with that. Yeah. To say that, to ask what has Saylor done for Bitcoin is just like crazy. And here's the thing. Half the people who are in the chat today, I'll never see again. I'll never think about. So the real ones are here. That's who I'm paying attention to. Buck52, Marco, BitBilly. These are logical people. And again, I don't care what they're running. I'm not going to tell them to run BIP-110 or not to. They can think for themselves. They have all the ability to do that. So I just think that like things like this is objectively wrong. And it's crazy to me how many people actually believe this to be true. Yeah, he's a greasy salesman. He's not a crook. He's not a pedophile. And, you know, I can't prove either one of those two things, but neither can you. So I just feel like society, if you have no evidence and you're still accusing somebody of being a pedophile, that's pretty fucked up. That's pretty fucked up. And people have been doing that for months without him back. Without Saylor, we would not have the saying, what is money? Yeah, without Saylor, we would have a lot less people who understand Bitcoin. I know that to be true. Without Saylor, there would be a lot less people on this planet who understand Bitcoin. A lot less. Scared that Saylor was praised in the first place. Well, I praise him. I think he's done a lot of good for Bitcoin. He's helped a lot of people understand it. He's helped me understand Bitcoin at a deeper level. He's, I would say, I was going to say objectively, but people will argue that. But what Saylor is doing is he's shorting fiat. That's what strategy is doing. That's what Stretch is doing. And I'm not somebody who would buy it or tell anybody to buy strategy or Stretch. Me personally, I've had strategy for like 3 years now. And it's a very, very small percentage of my portfolio. If you look back at my videos and the 568 live streams I've done, I have never once told somebody to buy MSTR instead of Bitcoin in self-custody. Bitcoin in self-custody is the tool here. Everything else is fiat games. It is. And for the people who got tricked into buying STRC, which also I've been saying for the last 2 months, then that's on you. That's very high time preference thinking. Because this is what I've been saying. I said, what Saylor's doing is he's basically convincing people to give him their money, their capital, so that he can buy Bitcoin and hold it, or let Coinbase hold it, whatever you want to clarify it as. But Strategy can buy Bitcoin and they'll give you fiat in return for it. So Strategy's whole goal is to eliminate the fiat system. But yet he's saying, hey, give me your money, I'll buy Bitcoin, and I'll pay you in fiat, the thing that I'm trying to destroy here. So you don't have to be so black and white with things. Like, would I ever do that? No. Would I tell my parents to do that? No. Because I think it's stupid. And I've been saying that. But that doesn't mean he's a pedophile. Like, can we find a little bit of gray here? That's the whole point. Can we find a little bit of gray here? It doesn't have to be so black and white. No comment on Epstein stuff. End of the day, Saylor is pushing paper Bitcoin. He never mentions node runners and doesn't call Bitcoin money. He calls it digital capital constantly. Yeah, I agree. And I've said that as well. I'm so tired of him calling it digital credit. But that doesn't mean that I hate him or think that he should leave Bitcoin or go to jail or is a pedophile. Be your own Saylor. Be your own Michael Saylor. Take your money, buy Bitcoin, put it in self-custody. How hard is that? I 100% agree with this. Can't deny that he has lost his way. 2025 Saylor is not 2026 Saylor. Agree. 1000% agree with that. But again, that doesn't make him a pedophile. No, Ginger, you definitely don't need to feel bad for me, man. Like I said, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's apparent to you, but I'll never see these people again. I'll never think of them again. It's just sad to me. Even Forrest the other day, he put out a really good video talking about BIP-110 and whether it's a good solution. And he had 600 comments in there. No real good arguments, just name calling and spamming. And it's sad that it's got to this point where like people are actually afraid to speak logically on the topic because of the comments. Like, what is that? What is that? Bitcoiners were against cancel culture. They were, until it benefits them and their ego. Fear of ossification. It's like eating healthy to prevent ending up in the hospital at the end of your life. It's like eating healthy to prevent ending up in hospital at the end of your life. I'm not sure I understand that one. Bitcoin is a protocol just like the internet. People do weird shit on the internet all the time. Are you going to stop using the internet? No, because there's not a whole bunch of, there's not people with 1 million subscribers talking about disgusting things on there and riling people up. It ain't it is censorship. It absolutely is censorship. It's censorship. You could argue that Core V30 was reverse censorship, but it was still on a policy level, at a policy level, which means that if I didn't want certain things coming through my node, I could change that. And I did. I ran knots. I run knots to this day because I wanted to be able to customize what transactions come into my node. That's a policy change. BIP-110 is a consensus change, and it is censorship. It absolutely is censorship. Spammers are running out of Satoshis. What do you do when you run out? Do you buy more, or do you say, oh no, I'm out of Bitcoin? Well, I'll never run out of Bitcoin because I don't waste my sats on spamming the network. That's not a fear for me. So what are you suggesting here? That spammers can just keep buying Bitcoin? Till when? Till when? He's like the meme with the guy and 1,000 swords pointed at him, swatting them away one by one. Wow. I don't know. And that's the other part too, is like, I'm not trying to swat them or, you know, get somebody with a gotcha. There are just no logical arguments anymore. It's all just so black and white. Like the way that Crater frames his videos now and the titles that he uses, it's just like, it's intentionally riling people up, and it's not a healthy thing to do. Because at the end of the day, all of us want Bitcoin to succeed. All of us believe that Bitcoin is our only tool against fiat misery. All of us agree with that. All of us agree with that. And when I say all of us, I would say that would mean 99.9% of people. So it's like all this division is just, it's really, and you know, that's the other thing too, is like, you can call me names, you can make fun of me, you can say whatever you want. Doesn't matter. But it's going to be sad when this thing succeeds or fails, and there's going to be a lot of people that leave Bitcoin because of it. It's going to set us way back. In the timeline, it's going to set us way back. But you know, that's what has to happen. This was never going to be a straight line upwards. Never. And this is going to be the first of many that we're going to have to fight, good or bad, keeping Bitcoin as it is or needing to make a change. This is going to be the first of many. Because there are some very abstract, powerful people who do have a lot of weapons. Even though they are abstract weapons, they do have a lot of weapons at their disposal, and they do not want Bitcoin to succeed. And so, you know, I'm not saying this is a psyop to divide Bitcoiners. It could be. I don't know. But I do expect many, many more of these. And so my fear here is not getting called a name or, you know, somebody trying to hurt my feelings. That's not my fear. My fear is that we have a lot of people who want Bitcoin to succeed and who believe that Bitcoin is the only tool to defeat fiat, who are going to leave because they're butthurt. And they believe that because their real noble effort, valiant effort failed, that now Bitcoin's not going to be money anymore. That'll be the shitty part. Proof of work alone isn't enough, because if the chain data gets too large, mining will centralize. That's not true. That's not true. Again, the op-return filter was increased, so people use the op-return, and you can prune that. So if you don't believe that you want this stuff on your node, you can prune it out. If people are using the op-return, you can prune it out. So if you believe Bitcoin is money and that's the only thing that you want on your node, you can still do that without having to change the consensus rules of Bitcoin. You can still do that. And also the people who claim that data's, if we let this continue without BIP-110, the data is going to be too expensive for the average person to run a node, I call bullshit on that. Number one, most people will never run a node. Like the people who are here today, maybe a couple, 10,000 more, maybe, that's who's going to be running nodes. The average person with 20,000 sats to their name isn't going to run a node. You know how fucking lazy people are? People don't even want to sign up for a new account. Never mind order $1,000 device or flash this software onto a laptop. People aren't going to do it. But the other thing too is that data storage will probably continue to go up in fiat terms, but just like everything else, it will go down forever in Bitcoin terms. Yes, even data storage will go down forever in Bitcoin terms. And if you're a Bitcoiner You understand what I'm saying there? So the whole argument of like, it's going to be too expensive for the average person to run a node. Number one, they're probably not going to. Number two, it might get too expensive in fiat terms, but it's going to continuously go down forever in Bitcoin terms. And again, going back to this same thing, you look at the data before V30, a policy change. There was more spam because people were finding ways around the filters. Then afterwards, it's either the same or it's come down significantly. Runes dead, ordinals dead. There's no traction for them. It's clear nobody wants spam. So if you're a spammer, why would you intentionally spend your Bitcoin, your scarce Bitcoin that requires proof of work, energy to create? Why would you waste it on that if nobody wants it? You wouldn't. BitBilly, my man. Yeah, 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups for everyone. Exactly. Nuances are so aggressive. This is not a good way to change something. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's too quick. It's too aggressive. It's too emotional. It just doesn't align with me at all. Even though, again, I use Bitcoin as money. I think that Bitcoin is a perfect money. And I do not think that this is the solution to it. Crater has lost mind. Agree. See Matthew Crater's reaction video to Saylor. BIP-110 will win. Sure. George, thank you for every stream. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. I really do. A lot of negativity in here today, and we're trying our best to keep a keel, even keel here. We need more plebs to run nodes. Agree. Make it as easy as possible for plebs to afford to run nodes. Well, this isn't going to change anything. It's just not. What's your take on Foundry publicly announcing a vote to their miners on flipping the bit? Overhyped, as most things are here. What do you think, man? Do you think you're your own? Yeah. It's or sad Ben Affleck mean. Saylor's not Bitcoin. Nobody ever said that he was. Nobody in this chat or on the stream ever said that Saylor is Bitcoin. Another battle test in Bitcoin journey. Exactly. That's what this is. And again, I think short term, there's going to be a lot of people who are butthurt and had their egos bruised pretty badly. But as long as you don't sell your Bitcoin for BIPcoin, then you're not going to lose. You're not going to lose. Node runners are the Bitcoin network. Cool buzzword there. Cool buzzword there. I haven't heard that one before. Tell us if, yeah, see, like this is what I mean. I've done how many live stream sats and sunsets? Is this 568? 569? Look at these beauties on Rumble. We got Moro21, the guy who disagrees with me, sent $5 in. He said, "You did this, Jory. I love it." Yeah, it's true. It's true. I appreciate it, man. Sats and Sunsets gifted a membership. Looks like LapPad was the recipient. Thank you, Sats and Sunsets, and thank you, Moro. I appreciate it, buddy. Sats and Sunsets, Memby. Thank you, Sats and Sunsets, and it looks like LapPad was the recipient. Praetorian sent $5 and said, "Please take a moment and hit the like button. Kind regards, Praetorian." Yeah, press like. Show some love, man. People have too much hate in their hearts right now. There's way too much hate in people's hearts right now in Bitcoin. This isn't what it's all about. But again, it is necessary. These conversations are necessary, I believe, anyways. Otherwise, I wouldn't be wasting my time with it. And I don't expect to change anybody's mind today. That's not my purpose. That's not my point. I just think you can have conversations like this without being super emotional about things. and without being too black and white, cut and dry. I think that you should strive to be more open-minded and look for the nuance in everything. That's it. Andre sent in $5. He said, do the simple things, stack sats, tune out the noise. Amen. That's what I'm going to be doing after the show today. So I'm going back into 110 hibernation. Stelzro, Robert says, drink less caffeine, drink more water, plus electrolytes if you move a lot. Good reminder. Hey, if you're watching on Rumble today, let us know what you think. Let us know what your thoughts are on BIP-110, or just leave a heart. Got some Arnie hair in my mouth here. Anyways, Joshua, where I was going with that is Sats and Sun said this is stream number 567. 567. And the answer to that is yes, I am running a note. I've said several times throughout this episode that I run knots. So I don't know if you're hard of hearing or just don't listen. But I said several times that I run knots. But anyways, here's Arnie. Here's a guy who doesn't care. And you know what? The other thing I was thinking of before the show today, but Robert also sent $5 with that. So thank you, Robert. I really appreciate that. Robert, Andre, Praetorian, Sats and Sunsets, Morrow, Sharon B, and Chuck. Love you guys. I appreciate it. And here's a guy who doesn't care. But that's the other thing I was thinking about this morning is like, so funny. You go onto Twitter or YouTube or wherever Bitcoiners hang out these days, Noster, and everything's just about BIP-110. Everything. And I guarantee you, if you stood on a street corner in any city and you asked 1,000 people, do you plan on signaling to BIP-110 or not? Probably at least 999 of those people would say, what is BIP-110? They would have no idea what a BIP-110 is. Zero. You say Bitcoin, people have a very negative lens towards it. Everybody's heard of Bitcoin. Nobody understands Bitcoin. But 999 out of 1,000 people, probably 1,000 out of 1,000 people, wouldn't have a clue what you were talking about. And I think that that's just a reminder to us of how early we are in Bitcoin right now. That's a really good reminder of how early we are in Bitcoin. Again, because you say Bitcoin, most people have heard of it. Most people will tell you that it's a crypto, or it's a Ponzi, or it's a scam, or it's involved in this and that. And it's just all the negative programming they've received through the years. But you ask them about BIP-110, nobody would have a clue what you're talking about. And yet here we are. Here we are. Matthew Cratter was Peter Thiel's boy, and Matt Dasher, I think you mean Luke Dasher, is a lunatic. Uncle Jimmy says, I didn't know that Cratter was involved with Peter Thiel. Never heard that before. But I would say the second part there, Matt Dasher or Luke Dasher. I don't know if lunatic's the word. He's got a lot of praise through the years. Actually, I think it was Jack Dorsey who said that Luke Dasher actually saved Bitcoin at one point. But again, not everything's black and white. Even if he is a lunatic, he might have good ideas in Bitcoin. Even if he saved Bitcoin 12 years ago, that doesn't mean that this is the best for Bitcoin. That's the whole point of the conversation today. Uncle Jimmy says, Jor, I'm not emotional about this. I'm using evidence. Quotes taken from Saylor. Also, Saylor being in the Epstein files does not mean he was on the island engaging in. Okay, but I never claimed this. Uncle Jimmy, come on, man. Let me see this. Let me see this. You guys be the judge of this. I'm not going to say yes or no or whatever, but like, this is what Uncle Jimmy said before. Saylor is a shitcoiner. He's pro money printer, and he's clearly compromised, not just he is. He's clearly compromised via the Epstein files. when you say that, when you say a comment like that, whether it's in a live chat or a comment section or wherever, you say this, most people's first thought would be that Saylor was involved with Epstein, that he was on the island, he was part of the whole thing, and he's being blackmailed. That's what the average person would think that you're saying there, right? Like, am I crazy? Am I crazy? And then you turn around and say that you never claimed that he was on the island engaging in that. Like, you know how much double speak is there? It's crazy. It's crazy to me. Lapad says, good morning. I love how worried the suit coiners are becoming about BIP-110. Makes me wonder why they're becoming so vocal if they're so sure it'll fail. I'll be mining on the longest chain regardless. Good man. Good to see you, Lapad. Good to see you, Lapad. My comment to this Lapad would be, not all people who are against BIP-110 are suit coiners, for one. Not all. Again, don't just lump people. You can think whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I just think that it's, speaking personally, it's hard to talk about this subject if you are not on board for BIP-110, just because of all the bullshit involved with it. It's very easy to speak up pro BIP-110. You have 1,000 people that are going to be in your comment section giving you all the hearts. You're the best. You're my hero. It's easy to do that. It's easy to do that. And there's a lot of people that I know personally who have been intentionally quiet on this because it just doesn't really make sense to talk about it. And it's sad because then, you know, you don't get to hear the reality. You just get to hear your own little echo chamber of, you know, circle jerks back and forth. And that's BIP-110, but it's a lot of different things too. And it won't be the last for this to be the case. BIP-110 won't be the last thing where, you know, there's a really supercharged emotional side and really an angry mob. And if you look at Michael Sullivan on Twitter, I don't know how many people here follow him or have heard of him before, but he shows the objective data on the sentiment in people who are for BIP-110 versus those who are against it, and their overall, you know, their language, their outlook it's very negative. There's a lot of hate from that side, and it's really not surprising to me that not many people have come out opposed to BIP-110 for that reason. I don't think that they believe it's going to fail, but I could be wrong. I don't know what they think. I don't pretend to. Plural says, I'll be here no matter what, but going to enjoy life over all else. Good man. Good man. And I appreciate this as well, Lapad. I want to give you a shout out for this too, because he said, I'll be mining on the longest chain regardless. That I very much respect that. I very much respect that. There's Sats and Sunsets, and there's the recipient. Very willing to have a discussion, and I have a lot of respect for you, but I'm calling this like I see it. Well, that's fair. But just because you see something one way doesn't mean that it's the right way, right? I think we would all agree with that. Everybody has different perspective. Everybody has different incentives. But I feel like I'm somewhat qualified to have this conversation right now, because again, I've done 567 live streams talking about Bitcoin. That doesn't make me an expert on it. I've learned a lot during this whole situation going on. I've learned a lot about people, and I've learned a lot about Bitcoin itself, technically speaking, but I don't have any sponsors. I have 0 sponsors. So it is impossible for anybody to come out and say that I'm compromised by anybody. I have 0 sponsors. I never have. I never will. And obviously, I use Bitcoin as money every day. I think that Bitcoin is a perfect money. And I hate spam as much as the next person. I believe that Bitcoin will, over time, solve the internet issue with spam, not just on the Bitcoin network. But I think if Bitcoin does stay as it is, Bitcoin will solve not only spam on the internet, but overall in life. I think that there should be a cost of doing things, whether that's a comment, a phone call, especially unwanted, right? Because a phone call from my mom, that's nobody's going to pay for that. But if it's somebody who I don't know and unwanted spam, people should have to pay for that. And that works because, again, the whole premise of this conversation is that you cannot create spam credits, all otherwise known as Satoshis. Because in order to put spam on the network, you have to pay Satoshis for it. Nobody can get around that. Even if there is a 75% discount, whatever, you still have to use energy from the physical world to create a unit called Satoshi, and you have to spend that Satoshi to put spam on the network. So over time, it solves itself because you cannot create spam credits, also known as Satoshis. Nobody has the ability to do that. So that's why I feel like I'm in a unique position here where I don't have anybody telling me what to do or say. I don't even have a fucking producer for this show. This is just my thoughts after being in Bitcoin for over 6 years now, seeing both sides of it, looking at it from a psychological perspective and a logical, technical perspective. And it's interesting to me. And again, I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you either other side of it. I don't care. I'm not saying that your vote doesn't matter in this, because it does. It matters in this, and it's going to matter in the next war, the next battle. But this isn't the hill that I'm willing to die on. And I think that there will come a point in Bitcoin where no runners do have to exercise their right and their power. Just to me, that this isn't the time. It's just not the time. Because again, it doesn't solve anything. It sounds good theoretically. You can use all the analogies you want to, but in practice, this isn't going to solve anything. And whenever you add censorship to something, you take away the censorship resistant aspect of Bitcoin, I would say it loses a large percentage of its value. Soon as one group get to decide what can and can't go on this time chain, that's very dangerous. And it would be different. I really do believe that if this was going to be more effective at getting rid of spam, then I might actually be on board with it. I just don't think that it is. Again, even before the filters changed, people are finding ways to get around it. People have already found ways to get around BIP-110. Appreciate it, Plural. I appreciate you, buddy. He spun the narrative towards Bitcoin, saying it can't be money and fiat should exist. Okay, but here again. It doesn't matter what Michael Saylor says. He's one person. It doesn't matter what he says. So just because you hate Saylor, that doesn't mean that BIP-110 is the solution. Just because you hate Gloria and Core 30, the core team, doesn't mean BIP-110 is the solution. Saylor and BIP, yeah, it's called. That's why I said I'm going to talk about this today. And then I'm not going to talk about it on X or my streams here for the next till it's over. I actually want to be there. I want to be there. I think Forrest is going to be going live that day, and I'm gonna try to hop on the stream with him to witness this, because it's fun. It's a big moment in Bitcoin, and whatever side you're on, it is going to be. It's important. Timekeeper says, would you be open to having a cordial one-on-one chat on this topic one day? You're right that it's emotional, and I'd love a chance to learn your opinion without the peanut gallery. Yeah. It's not really the peanut gallery, to be honest with you. It's not. I feel like I've said what I needed to say throughout the show already. I don't really have much more to say on the topic. And, it would be a little bit different to me if guys like Sketchucation and Plural And, you know, the people who are always here, not just the people who show up when they see BIP-110. Not saying that their opinion doesn't matter, but I just, it's not, I don't really care too much. So I wouldn't consider it to be the peanut gallery. This, I'm talking about my honest opinions, chance to learn. I'm talking about my opinions right now. And I like the peanut gallery because, again, I think the worst thing that you can do in this whole thing is be closed-minded about it. The second you put BIP-110 in your profile picture or your profile name, you've completely closed your mind to the argument. You're just strictly pushing your narrative, and it's not good. It's very black and white that way. And again, maybe it is the hill that people want to die on, and that's okay. Like, everybody's different, and I'm not going to tell people they're right or wrong to do that. It's their opinion. It's their choice. Got messy when the suits came in. They want us fighting, and we are. I mean, I think that Saylor should give his opinion on it. I do. I would be worried if Saylor didn't care about this. Don't you? Wouldn't you be worried? I would be worried if Saylor just thought that this was a not important thing, and he just didn't talk about it. I would be worried. Because then it'd be like, well, nobody's opinion matters to anybody, so we're just going to keep going here. We're going to keep taking people's capital, buying Bitcoin, paying them in fiat, carry on with your day. I would have been worried if Saylor didn't say anything about this. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I think that that's stupid. Anybody who buys those products, to me, I know certain people will say, well, you know, I want to have 11% because I have this expense coming up. I've heard it all. I just still do not agree with people trading their capital, their time and their energy for a product that pays them in fiat when they could instead allocate that capital to Bitcoin in self-custody. Because Bitcoin, to me, is very powerful. It's very powerful. And I'll tell you one thing here, because, you know, I'm doing my best here not to get too caught up on the sides of things here, but I will tell you this. As somebody who does have a YouTube channel, and I don't think that many people here in the live chat can relate to this. As somebody who has a YouTube channel, and again, I'm not saying that from like a higher perspective here. I'm just telling you my perspective of this. Bitcoin to me is money, of course. It's a perfect money to me because it's a perfect store of value. It's a perfect medium of exchange, and it's a perfect unit of measurement. Bitcoin is perfect money. It is. But somebody who has a YouTube channel in Canada talking about how bad the fiat system is, how bad the central banks are, and how much it's destroyed society. Bitcoin is more than just a perfect way to exchange value back and forth. It's a censorship-resistant ledger that you can exchange value with anybody and not have to worry about somebody censoring your transaction. That's what it is to me. And so when I say Bitcoin is a weapon, it is a weapon to me. It is a weapon to me because if I didn't have Bitcoin in self-custody on this censorship-resistant network, I would not be able to have a YouTube channel. I just wouldn't. So to me, we don't have guns here in Canada. We're not allowed to. It's not like the US where everybody has a gun. Bitcoin to me is a gun. Bitcoin is a weapon. And when people start deciding that your transaction can go on there and this one can't because of some potential future situation, that is very dangerous to me. That is the whole reason why I do not support this. And not everybody can relate to that. I understand that. But that's what I'm trying to say here today is that everybody has different perspective. Everybody has different incentives. And to me, again, Bitcoin is a perfect money to me, but it's also a weapon. Because if my government decides that they don't want me to have YouTube anymore and they want to freeze my bank accounts, and all of a sudden in the future, they have the ability to freeze my UTXOs because I was involved in YouTube and trashing the government. That's a very dangerous thing. And when you're hiding behind a profile picture and nobody knows what you look like and where you live, it's a lot easier to say, yeah, Bitcoin's money. I want this to happen. But when you start telling people that this person gets to decide what a legitimate transaction is, that's very dangerous. And I don't expect everybody to get that. I don't expect everybody to get that. I do agree no one should be slinging around below the belt insults. Well, half the fucking chat's been full of that today. Okay, well, I guess, we're not talking about Saylor's 110. I feel like this is probably better anyways. I feel like this is a better way to do it because it would have taken us 4 hours. I'm sure Saylor used AI to do the whole thing. So this is probably more useful. We need receipts for Saylor and back if they were on the island. Does anybody have actual personal firsthand knowledge that they were? If not, shut the fuck up. That's what I mean. Like I'm saying that they weren't. I'm saying that Michael Saylor, Adam Back are not pedophiles. They're not criminals. They're not, what was the other one before that somebody used? Crooks. I'm saying that. I have no evidence that they are or they aren't, but nobody has any evidence to suggest otherwise. And I know there's going to be people in the chat. Oh, Adam Back was involved in funding this and he was mentioned in this email. It's not really evidence. It's like a piece that somebody can cling on to if they want their narrative to be the right one. And I feel like that's what this whole thing has been. But it's very dangerous to call somebody a pedophile and a crook when you have no real evidence to suggest that. That's a problem with the world as it is today, is that everybody's proven guilty until innocent. Billy says, I'm running Bitcoin Core on my Start 9. Does that mean I'm running knots? I'm so confused by this stuff. No. I mean, I shouldn't laugh. And that's the thing is like, I'm only laughing because it's Billy and he's making light of it anyways. Catch you later, Arnie. He's had enough. But no, the knots and core, those are implementations of Bitcoin. And so if you're either running Bitcoin Core or knots. And so if you're on Start 9, you could actually go into I believe it's the marketplace, and you could download core. Like I said, I'm running knots. I'm running knots myself. I don't know if I will be for very long. Again, I don't like the tone from Luke. Basically, if you disagree with him, then you support pedophilia. It's a very dangerous narrative. And I don't know. I've been running knots. I understood that perspective from a policy standpoint, that knots made sense for me at the time. I don't know. I got some thinking to do on it. And that's what I mean. Like I'm very open-minded about the whole thing right now. I believe I am anyways. And I just understand that everybody has different perspectives. I also understand that a lot of people don't know what they're talking about. And they're the loudest ones. So I appreciate your humility here, Billy. But no, you can... it'll either be core or knots. You can run two different ones. I know people that run both. I know people personally that run both. They have a Start 9 running knots, and they have Umbro running core. Oh, Zapstream ended? Shit. I didn't even look over there. Sorry, everybody. Oh no, it's still going for me. It's still going for me. We don't have a large crew over there, but we got a good crew. We got Letha the Icon, who was in the chat over in Rumble, and she zapped 5,000 sats. Says, good morning, fam, with a cowboy. Thank you, Letha. David T says, good morning, Letha. Thank you, David T. Plural zapped 21, said Noster. And Sats and Sunsets zapped 67 sats for show 67. Said, thanks for the reminder. Thank you, Sats and Sunsets. And good morning to the Grinder. The man himself, the Grinder. Good to see you, buddy. Still looks like it's running for me, Sats and Sunsets. It's the other thing too, is like, I feel like a lot of people who are the loudest online probably have never even sent a Bitcoin transaction before. They're not on Nostr. They're not on Rumble. They're not on Zapstream, but they're virtue signaling that they want Bitcoin as money when they're not even using it as money. Anyways, thank you, Zapstream. Okay, the deep state fiat system centralized gold 6102'd it and papered over it. They can, God forbid, do the same to Bitcoin if plebs don't run nodes. Yeah, I agree. Everybody should be running a node. I 1,000,000% agree with that. It's your vote. That's your vote. And it's a legitimate vote too, not a, there's no mail-in ballots. That's how I see people spinning up nodes just to run these implementations to get their numbers up. That's the equivalent of mail-in votes. But if you got Bitcoin, if you use Bitcoin, you run a node, you have some sort of economic influence there, then your vote actually counts and nobody can change it or silence it. Unlike the fiat system, where those mail-in ballots count. I just mean BIP-110 supporters are afraid chain will ossify, die if it's not kept healthy now. I mean, I don't know that that's the case though. I don't know that that's the case because literally, if again, we're kind of keeping, I'm doing my best here to keep policy consensus split, but why Core 30 upgraded their policies because they didn't feel like the filters were effective. They weren't trying to ossify Bitcoin. They're saying, hey, this filter is not doing anything. People are finding more harmful ways to add spam to the network here. Why don't we just open this up so people will be incentivized to use the op return again? To me, that's making Bitcoin more efficient. That's Bitcoin Core's whole job, is to make Bitcoin network more efficient. It's what everybody wants. Everybody here. So I don't really see the argument of like ossification's a bad thing, or Core 30 wants to ossify when they're the ones who are trying to make Bitcoin more efficient. Like it's all this. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like people think that they're obviously doing the right thing, supporting the one that says Bitcoin is money, supporting the one that says they don't want spam on the network, supporting the one that says we shouldn't have things stored as data storage. But it's just like there's so much more to it than that. But that's what everybody just like clings on to. Ultimately, BIP-110 is here in order to try and protect Bitcoin network from centralization. If Bitcoin becomes centralized, it can be captured, it can be changed. If Bitcoin becomes centralized, it can be captured, rules can be changed. I mean, that's what we're setting a precedent for right now. That's what we're setting a precedent right now. If you can change Bitcoin with a soft fork like BIP-110, then who's to say we can't change it easily for the next thing, or the next thing that people don't want on there, or the next thing that people think that we need it to be inflationary. It's just like the more you change it, the more it can be changed. The arguments are so double speak. It can be changed. You mean how BIP-110 is trying to change it? Exactly. Then they'll say they're not changing it though. And then someone will say they're changing it back to how it was before. Before what? Before Core made a policy change? This is it's just, oh man, it's crazy. There's no, but I will say this. Bitcoin itself is, I love it because these conversations are happening out in the open. They're happening out in the open, where you decide the policies, the rules, where you decide the laws, the consensus. All this stuff happens in public. It's all fully transparent. Everything about it, the conversations, the voting from both miners and node runners, the price, the way the market's seeing it, everything's out in the open. And you compare this to the fiat system where everything's behind closed doors. There's 20 dipshits who get to decide the new policy or update a law, and they don't tell anybody the discussion or the reasoning or anything for it. So just the process itself, even though I think Bitcoin could be fine-tuned in terms of the governance of it, we're a million miles ahead of the fiat system in terms of how this whole thing works. It's amazing. And it's frustrating, it's annoying, but it's amazing. That's what I love about it. All the accounts with BIP-110 in the name and profile shows a lot. Sounds too desperate for me, like the pronoun pushers. Nah, I would say the same. I would say the same. That's the vibe that I get to, and that's what the data shows. That's what the data shows. There's a lot of hate from that side. Sobo Hobo says BIP-110 is really a response to SegWit and Taproot consensus changes that enabled the ordinals hack. Spam on Bitcoin rose dramatically after those. Were those consensus changes problematic too? See, this is the first legitimate comment today. I'm not discounting anybody, but everything else has been very emotional. And to everybody who's saying that BIP-110 is a response to Core 30, again, it's policy change, consensus change. This is a legitimate question. This is. My response to this would be, you're absolutely right. I think that BIP-110 actually does help this in a way. But I still think that BIP-110 is not the solution because people have already found other ways around it to accomplish the same thing. And ordinals, runes, they're all getting priced out of the market. Nobody values it. Nobody wants it. And they have to keep spending Satoshis or spam credits if they want it to be a thing. I don't see it as being a problem in the future. That's just me. That's my opinion. But this is the first legitimate argument that has been in the chat today, 2 hours into it. Isn't that crazy? That's the frustrating part. Is that everybody gets these like parroted buzzwords and talking points from Crater, from Bitcoin Mechanic, from whoever, and they just they don't comprehend the whole situation. They just have like these rebuttals to certain things that they heard somebody else say. Do I know Mahler's stance on BIP-110? I don't. Which is kind of interesting because he has quite a bit of skin in the game. Oh yeah, what else we got here? Look at this, Timekeeper. Sent in $5 super sticker. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. We also got some things going on here from Rumble. Sindeezy sent a fist and $2. Thank you, Sin. And it looks like Sharon B, the beautiful Sharon B, gifted another membership. And Galaxy Tile was the recipient of it. So thank you, Sharon B, very much. That's membership number 2 over on Rumble. God bless. God bless. I thought the argument against pruning it meant you won't have a full node to help with your privacy. That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't see how that would impact your privacy, though. I thought the argument against pruning it meant you won't have a full node to help with your privacy. I don't think it would have anything to do with privacy, Scotty. I think it would be more the transparency of things, not the privacy. I could be wrong, though. Pretty sure he's been smart and stayed quiet. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's not a sexy thing in the world right now. Don Maish says, "What is BIP-110?" It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. I think Crowder went to school with Teal or something, but they aren't buddy-buddy beyond that, from his own words. Video he talks about it, but since I watched, I don't get the impression they were boys, other than they have history. Yeah, it's fine. That's fine. I'd say that the core team has been very aggressive in loosening their policy Policy is the key word there. Their policy. And I know Bitcoin Core is absolutely horrible at communicating the whys. They did a horrible job of telling people why they did that. They did a horrible job of communicating with people, calling them idiots, saying that they don't understand it, so they're not going to waste their time with it. Core did a horrible job with that. Horrible. That couldn't have been handled in a worse way. It couldn't possibly, but again, it woke a lot of people up. It got people looking into policy. It got people looking into other options instead of core, because before that whole thing happened, it was like 99% core. Now it's like, what, 80-20, 75-25? The core could not have handled that worse. But that was a policy change. And the reason why they did it, from what I understand, is because they didn't want people were finding a way to add spam regardless of the filter. Even with a very small filter, 83 kilobytes, people were still finding ways to spam the network going around it. So they said, well, this is doing nothing. Let's open it up, incentivize people to use this because they believe it was the safest way to spam the network. They didn't communicate that properly. They did the community a huge disservice to how they were speaking to people. It was horrible. But that was a policy change, and that doesn't mean that BIP-110 is a solution. BIP-110 is not actually the underdog. I don't think it really matters who the underdog is. It's which one makes the most logical sense. It's another thing too, is like people just feel like they're, everybody wants to be part of something. They want to be, on the side of the revolutionaries, the plebs. But it's like most people don't even know what they're fighting for. That's not really effective. Doesn't matter who the underdogs are. You yourself provide no arguments. Just BIP-110 doesn't resolve anything. Okay, well, if you're not understanding what I'm saying here, it's people talking. They're having different arguments of this. Does it solve spam or does it not? Like, I don't know, man. There's just, it's too much. It's too much. My arguments are Bitcoin is money today. It's a perfect money as it is today. This exact version of it is money, perfect money. I use it very frequently, and it has served me very well as money. I don't believe that BIP-110 solves anything. People are still going to find ways to add spam to the network. People are still going to find ways to add spam to the network. I think it's it's a slippery slope when certain people, a certain segment of Bitcoin Twitter gets to decide what is spam and what isn't. What transactions are legitimate, which ones aren't, just because it's their opinion. That's dangerous to me. And again, I think I hopefully did a good job of explaining why that's dangerous to me in terms of people being able to censor people that they don't like. Everybody's mad at Saylor. Everybody's mad at Core. Everybody's mad at Adam Back. Everybody's mad at David Bailey. But so their reaction to that, their reaction is like, well, I don't like these people, so I'm running BIP-110. I don't think I really need to provide an argument. I mean, I feel like I've done 2 hours of arguing why I don't think that it's a solution. But like, Bitcoin's not I'm not the one trying to change the consensus rules here, the consensus of Bitcoin. It works. It's perfect money today. And all the things we're worrying about that we want to censor are things that haven't happened, might never happen. It's just all ego. It's all emotion. It's all, it's humans. That's what it is. It's humans. I have found BIP supporters to be very calm and clear and polite and objective. Okay, well, we've clearly had much different experiences. I'm sure that if I came out and said, you should run BIP-110, everybody would be just very calm, very clear, very polite, very objective. For sure. That's an easy thing to do. That's the easy thing to do. If I wanted to add 20,000, if I wanted to double my subscriber count tomorrow, I would just say that run BIP-110. Bitcoin is money. Spam is bad. Saylor's a crook. But instead, I don't believe that. And it's my opinion. And it's been the opposite of that, let's say. So for anybody to say that that they're very calm and clear and polite to the people that agree with them, that's what I'll say. Galaxy Tile, here's a guy who knows what he's talking about. He said, my honest perspective, in the long run, running a node needs to be obtainable for the vast majority. Agreed. Shouldn't need a supercomputer to do so. Agreed. I also don't want to feel like big miners get to make all the decisions. Agreed. I want to feel that every day people like you and I have a say and influence in Bitcoin's future by running a node. Agreed. Whether BIP-110 is the answer is the concern. Agree. I just wish all pools were like Ocean. Agree. We're all blocks from individual templates and not just decided by the pool itself. See, I knew that. I knew Galaxy Tile would be able to. This guy's been around. He's been in the community for a while. I very much respect this fella, and that's a great way to put it, man. I really agree with you. Pretty much everything about it. Everything that you said, I second. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of people who are willing to, be that level-headed about it. They want to be right. They want to be right. But I think it'll be a hard lesson for a lot of people. But that's what life is, man. That's what life is all about. That's what life's all about. Only Bitcoin. Good morning. Good to see you. Sorry, Don. BIP-110 is a lot of things. It's this isn't really the stream to discuss what it is. We've already been here for over 2 hours, and we're pretty deep into it. Is it easy to go up against industry, colossal miners, and core devs? Not sure what that means. Imagine saying anyone not for BIP-110 is for exactly. While using a mobile phone with cobalt mine via child slavery and still spending fiat in everyday life from a system that finances, bingo. This is what I'm saying here. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying right here, man. This is what pisses me off the most about this whole thing. Is people think that they're doing this huge service to the world by telling people that they shouldn't put things on their personal servers. Really? Well, that doesn't solve a fucking thing. And the longer we argue about this bullshit schematics, ego-driven emotion, the longer fiat continues. The longer there's child slavery, the longer they're able to finance all the things that actually take the pictures, not where the fucking pictures are stored, but the fact that they are still getting away with it. That's because of fiat. That's who our enemy is. My enemy is nobody in this chat. My enemy is the sick fucks that do that. And people think that because they're not storing it on their node that they're making any sort of a fucking difference in the world. It's a Band-Aid. That's not going to solve anything. It's not going to change anything. Oh, man. Oh, well, it took me 2 hours to get riled up, but you're absolutely right, Sin. And that's the whole argument there. That's the whole argument. It's a Band-Aid. It's a shitty Band-Aid too. It's not even the Band-Aid brand. It's like a Spider-Man Band-Aid that you put on a 2-year-old when they get a mosquito bite or something. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't fix anything. And it's so much time and energy that people have spent thinking that they're changing anything in the world. Nothing. I might just leave this comment up for the rest of the show, to be honest with you. The libertarian in me completely supports any choice anyone makes, go for it. What I dislike is when someone tells me how to choose. Agree. Folks are focused on the symptoms and not the disease. 1,000,000%. What changes to BIP-110 do I recommend to make it better spelled? I don't know. I'm not a developer. I think that what we need to do is grow adoption, and we need to focus on the core issue here, which is the fiat system. That's what we need to focus on. And when you get adoption, there's more people using the mainnet. When more people are using the mainnet, it costs more to use. When it costs more to use, spam goes down. Nobody would argue that. Nobody with a logical brain would argue that. That's what the focus is. It does nothing to do with BIP-110. And the fact that we've spent so much time and energy, and I wouldn't consider it wasted. I really wouldn't, because I think that people have learned a lot from this. And like I said, this is going to be the first of many battles to come. And it is important to know policy, consensus, the nodes, the miners, how it all works. This is important stuff that we need to know if we want to be legitimate. So as frustrating it is, it's still necessary. Folks got to be able to make their own decisions, and that is where the sheeple show their faces. Yeah, and I mean, I just think that people are they're making it their whole. There's like 2 or 3 people where the guy, you know who I'm talking about. They'll make these analogies, and then people just get that in their head and they don't really understand what's going on. So then they kind of pair towards that. It actually really reminds me of Bitcoin overall. It reminds me of Bitcoin overall, because a lot of people here, not everybody, but a lot of people haven't spent more than 10 minutes actually trying to understand what's going on. And so then when they hear something like an analogy that they kind of understand, that's what they go with. And it's just like in Bitcoin, where most people, the average person, hasn't spent more than 10 minutes actually understanding what Bitcoin is. So then they just kind of cling on to these easy to grab analogies or buzzwords. And then that's their whole perception of Bitcoin forever. They aren't actually doing the work. They're just listening to other people and interpreting that. And then that's their opinion, when they actually don't understand what's even going on. Agree. David T says, I'm glad there's debate. It shows people still care. I couldn't agree more. And like I said, I do believe that this is going to be a very net positive in the long run for Bitcoin. But then true vast majority gets to choose Bitcoin's direction, not big corporate. Either way, appreciate you sharing your perspective despite the hate. Appreciate you, buddy. If I were the fiat money printer cartel, I would do everything I can to kill or capture Bitcoin. Spam would be an attack vector. Of course. Paper Bitcoin. I would say paper Bitcoin's a much more likely attack vector than spam. Neither are good, but BIP-110 solves neither of them. Lapad says, I think the fact that this civil war is so messy is proof that the network is still working as intended and decentralized. If change was clean and quiet, it would be agree. Very much agree. Very much agree. Ricky says, is now a good time to buy Bitcoin or gold? It's never a bad day to buy Bitcoin. Never. Any time in your life when you can trade fake pieces of paper or fake numbers on a computer screen for energy-backed units, you do it. Anytime. Any and every time. Gold's I don't think there'll ever be a day where it makes sense to buy gold. Well, when you have Bitcoin, I just don't see any need for gold. And you might say, well, Jor, why don't you hedge a little bit just in case Bitcoin fails? Here's an interesting one though. What if BIP-110 activates and Bitcoin is different than I thought it was? What am I going to do? Will I do gold? No. Will I do real estate? No. What would I do? That's a really interesting thought to have. If I believe that Bitcoin failed, not that Bitcoin fails, But if I believed that Bitcoin failed, what would I do? I really don't know. I think that I would probably keep what I have for Bitcoin. I would probably go get some sort of a fiat job that I enjoyed doing. That could be caddying at like a nice golf course, or working at like a dog shelter, or like walking dogs or something dog related. And then just living, spending what I make, keeping the rest in Bitcoin, but not really, talking about it, or, working with security stuff. Cause I won't have the same sort of passion for Bitcoin if it's this easy to change. If it's this easy to change consensus, I will admit that I was wrong about Bitcoin. Wouldn't mean I'll sell it, but I probably won't be doing stuff in Bitcoin anymore. Probably, not for sure, but probably. Whatever side wins is still the best hope we have for the future. Agree. Running nuts. Me too. BIP-110 is coming. It won't be nice for spammers. I'm running nuts with BIP-110, and I absolutely wish everyone ran a Bitcoin node and choose whatever they want to run. Your node, your choice. Just run a node and God bless. The one time Saylor was mentioned in the files proves he's just an autistic weirdo like most of us. Yeah, that's true, eh? They tried to get him to pull up or something, and he said he was just going to take his yacht back instead or something. Too autistic. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when people actually stop and think logically, I just don't see any scenario. I think that Saylor would be the last person in Bitcoin that I would associate with Jeffrey Epstein. You listen to him, you watch him. There's just no way that brain that he has would be able to do something like that. Those two don't. It's like it's just chemistry. Like those two things could not ever happen, in my opinion, unless he's a very good actor, which I don't think he is. They just don't go together. Uncle Jimmy says, never meant to engage in an argument, Jordan. Never said BIP was the solution, just had an opinion on Saylor. At the end of the day, much respect and appreciation for your channel. Cheers, buddy. Yeah, I mean, everything's an argument. Everything's an argument. And again, it should be. The thing that I love about Bitcoin is that these arguments are out in the open. They're out in the open. They're not behind closed doors in Chicago or DC or anywhere else. They're out in the open. They're on small channels like this. When people who actually give a shit about the future, whatever side you're on here, you're passionate about this because you want this to succeed, and you believe, based on the information that you have in your head, that your decision is the right one. That's like as simple as it gets. But that still doesn't mean that you're right, or that I'm right, or that anybody's right. Just because you want the best and the decision, the information that you have, you think that is the decision that's going to get you there, that doesn't mean that it's right. How much of the last Epstein files are made with AI? Yeah, I mean, you can't put any sort of weight into that. Honestly, it's sad, but true. You don't know what and I think that's intentional too. Like, I feel like they're just, making AI stupider and stupider nowadays. And like, coming out with a very obvious AI so that then the next thing that might actually be real, people just write off as AI. That's a very dangerous thing that we've already kind of passed the point of now too. This whole conversation has put a knot in my core. Steve says, so mine that your brain is falling out. Well, it's definitely not. Steve, I would love to see you set up here for 2.5 hours and entertain both sides of it. Bitcoin is either money or it is not. I've said that Bitcoin is perfect money several times throughout the stream. So I don't know what you're trying to prove or, whatever, but that's stupid. Stupid comment. Censorship is the wrong word. I wouldn't say your phone's spam filter is censoring your calls or your car's oil filter is censoring your engine. I mean, yeah. The analogies of like, here's the issue with analogies, because I get why they're used. They are very effective in a lot of ways, and I think they've been very effective in this whole debate. But here's the thing with analogies. Like, there was a guy that I was debating with on Twitter yesterday, and he basically said something along the lines of, would you add security to your house even though you knew that it wasn't perfect? Let me find it here. And it sounds like a good analogy, and like, people can grasp it, then they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Of course. I don't want this on. This BIP-110 makes sense. But when you actually think about it, hold on. Let me just find it here. It was actually from Nithu, who I love. I'm a big fan of Nithu. So what's his name? Soleil? Where is this here? Oh, it must have been on a different one. But he made an analogy of like adding security to your house doesn't mean you won't get robbed, but it's going to help. That was kind of like the idea of it, right? That was the analogy that he used. Increasing the security around your house isn't going to stop all burglars, but it's still going to help, right? And so, I mean, to the average person, that makes sense. It's like, yeah, that's a great analogy. Why don't we just run BIP-110? Because, it can't really hurt anything, and it might not stop everything, but it's going to help things. Well, it's different. It's different because when you add a security camera to your house or a fence around your yard, that's not compromising the foundation of your house. That's the danger with these analogies, is like they sound great, but they don't make sense, because you wouldn't add a security camera to your house outside, but that all of a sudden compromises the foundation of your house, because all of a sudden now people have the ability to decide what goes on the network and doesn't. That to me is a compromise of the foundation of Bitcoin, a censorship resistant protocol, time chain. Doesn't matter what you think about it or what somebody else thinks about it. The point of a censorship resistant protocol is that if you're willing to pay a fee, you can put it on there. That's the core value of Bitcoin. You can use it as money still. Doesn't change anything. But that's the issue with these analogies. Is like they don't make any sense. They make sense, but people don't think about how it actually relates to what's happening here. And really, I've heard so many of those analogies over and over again. The whole conversation was just analogies. And it's just like, Bitcoin is so unique that you can't use analogies. It's so unique that you can't use analogies. %. Folks need to remember it's okay to admit when you don't know something. Naz says, if not BIP-110, then what? The answer is we all need to begin running nodes. Agree. Mining to the degree we can afford. Agree. And taking self-custody. 100% agree. 100% agree. 100% agree with that. That's a great comment. Lapat said, I'm taking a somewhat neutral approach. I do have my opinions, but I do think that whatever chain it gets longer in the chain is the proof of work energy voted on, and I'll always follow the energy, not the suits. Good man. This is how Bitcoin solves the spam issue, not by eliminating spam entirely, but by making Bitcoin decentralized. The spam cannot threaten it anymore. Get ahead of the spam, run a node. Bitcoin Barber, love to see this. Picked up some Bitcoin yesterday. Core V BIP-110 is a living experiment in decentralized human coordination. The culture war in chat is noise. Protocols, incentives are the signal. Stay sovereign. Both sides love Bitcoin. They're just arguing over the best way to protect it. Why not try to close down every possible way to add spam? That's what BIP-110 is trying to do. Why not try to close down every possible way to add spam? That's what BIP-110 is trying to do. Because it still doesn't solve it. And it's dangerous. When you let people decide what should and shouldn't be on this thing because of their opinions and emotions and feelings, that is a dangerous, very dangerous slope. The best way to prevent spam, as mentioned up here, run a node, mine what you can, take self-custody of it. Then vote however you want to. But the point is we need to grow adoption to the point where people are actually using the mainnet. So it costs, it makes it unaffordable for people to want to spam the network. And could it happen? Yes, but it could also happen on BIP-110. They've already figured out a way to do it. So you really think that if there was a very nefarious person out there or a group of people who wanted to add something to Bitcoin, do you think that BIP-110 would make it so they couldn't do that? It's a very simple answer. I don't believe that they can, considering that it's not even activated yet, and people have already found ways around to add spam to the network. Just think about that. Think about that. If there was a very nefarious actor out there or a group of actors with a lot of money, and they wanted to put spam on the Bitcoin blockchain, do you believe that BIP-110 would counter that, would stop them from doing that? If the answer is yes to you, then run BIP-110. I do not believe that BIP-110 would be the solution there because people have already found a way to go around the BIP-110 rules, consensus. So then if that's the case, what the hell are we doing? And again, if you believe that BIP-110 will stop a nefarious actor from adding something to the blockchain if they really wanted to, then run BIP-110, activate it. It's really as simple as that. But people are talking about hypotheticals. Oh, maybe this will happen. Maybe they'll put this on there. Maybe they will. Do you really believe that if somebody wanted to spam Bitcoin, that BIP-110 would stop them from doing so? I don't. Opening the op return is like airplanes putting ashtrays in the bathroom. People all smoke. Might as well have a place to dispose of it. Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's a very good point. Jor, our ability to financially transact is not affected by BIP-110. It does not censor that freedom. It just acts. It might not censor that freedom in this specific situation. It might not do it in this specific situation. It just acts to stop assholes. See, I mean, whenever you start calling people names, you just kind of show that, you know, you're not being logical anymore. You are absolutely bang on, man. You are absolutely bang on. That kind of sounds like the same arguments people pushing for mask wearing and vaccines were making during COVID. It's crazy how much similarities there are. And that's the whole thing too, like the digital IDs. Do it to protect the kids. We don't want kids watching porn. So everybody has to verify themselves on the internet. Or we don't want grandma to die. So everybody has to wear a mask and do their part and get their shot. We're protecting grandma. We're protecting the kids. All this kind of stuff is done with good intentions in mind. But here's the thing. You're not doing anything. By stopping people from adding spam to Bitcoin, you're not doing anything. You're not protecting the kids. Those pictures are still going to get taken, whether they're stored on your server or not. That's not the point. The point is we want to stop those pictures from being taken. I don't give a fuck where they're stored. And fiat enables that. And the sooner that people realize that they're not making any sort of difference here by allowing them to be stored or not stored on their server, the faster we can move on from this and start actually diagnosing the root of this, which is fiat. It is not spam. It is fiat. I feel Core's jobs definition should be more along the lines of protect the network. Well, No, I would disagree with that. Protecting the network is running nodes and mining. The developer's job is to make it as efficient as possible. They all have to work together. Everybody has to get along, yes. But the job to protect the network is nodes and miners, and the developers have to maximize efficiency, get rid of code that isn't working, make it as efficient as possible. These guys are scammers and deep state cabal shills. What? Pop-in ads on YouTube are truly plucked. Well, you should hop over to Rumble or Zapstream. There's no ads on Zapstream. That's a decentralized network. So is Bitcoin. Okay, I'm still looking for a good reason as to why the opportunity was blown out from 80 bytes. I mean, I've said this 1,000 times already. I feel like even in this stream today. But number one, BIP-110 is a consensus change. The opportune filter was a policy change. These are two different things. These are two different things. But the reason, from my understanding anyways, and like I've said, Core did a horrible job at communicating why they did it. They handled the whole thing very poorly by blocking people, which really triggered this whole thing. The day that Bitcoin Mechanic got banned from the mailing list, the discussion, the forum, that's when everything just went fucking haywire. Ever since that day, Core could not have handled that whole situation worse than they did. They couldn't have. But the reason why they did it is because even with the 83 byte filter in place, people were finding ways to go around that, using other ways to put spam on the network. You can look at the objective data that shows that. Look at arbitrary data on Bitcoin before Core 30 and after. People were finding a way to spam the network, even with that filter in place. So Core said, hey, this thing isn't doing a fucking thing. Let's just increase it so that people will be incentivized to use the opportune. If they want to put anything on the network, we can't stop them, but we can point them in the right direction here through the opportune. That's why they did it. They did not communicate that. They could not have handled it worse. They were really ignorant to Bitcoiners, which pissed off a lot of people. But the whole thing, like everybody's kind of misconstruing it and tying everything together here. Again, it's policy and consensus. Two different things. But here's the thing. People believe that, well, they're going to fix Core. They didn't like how Core handled it. So now they're going to run BIP-110 because of that. Two different things. If no one's bleeding, no one's trying. Amen to that. Good to see you, Spaceman. Good to see you, buddy. I got to go. It's lunchtime here. I got shit to do. Side note, it cracked me up listening to you crap on Bitcoin and be all for gold during the Rajat practice debate. Really appreciate your channel. It gives folks like me something extra to chew on mentally. In the end, it helps us make better informed decisions. Exactly. That's my whole point of doing this. I'm never going to tell you to run BIP-110 or to run Core or to run knots. Never. Never have, never will. Because it's not up to me. You might have more information than I have. You might have a different perspective, different incentives than I have. I'm just trying to look at this whole thing objectively. Dr. K says, I know it's not that much to run a node, but I still wish everyone ran a node and choose whatever they want to run. Respect to all node runners regardless. Yeah, you can run a node for pretty much free. You don't have to pay $1,000 to do it. Caddy was my first job. Nice. Really? That's awesome. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. We are right about Bitcoin. There we go. There's my guy or girl. But that's it. We are right about Bitcoin. I mean, I could be wrong about Bitcoin. We'll see how this shakes out. There might be a day in the near future where you just never see or hear from me again. Who knows? But I won't be selling my Bitcoin because there's nothing that even compares to Bitcoin. Maybe land. Land would be the only thing that I would ever sell my Bitcoin for. Ever. But I wouldn't get much at these rates. I'd have to hold on to it for a while. Plural says, if 110 activates and you vanish, we'll have to meet up at the Kip show one day and crack a couple beers. Hell yeah. Hell frickin' yeah. I don't think it'll happen. I don't. But you never know. Here's the thing. Here's actually the thing, or maybe this is what we're on the show today. I want to go through, I know I haven't been talking about zaps or anything like that, but I just want to make sure I don't miss anybody here. Oh, where was I going with that? Oh, frick. I had a really good thought there. It might come back. Yeah, I didn't expect to get a whole lot of support today on this topic. But that's okay. That's not why I was doing it. But Rumble showed up today. And if you are somebody who likes using Bitcoin as money, a lot of people talk about it. But if you are somebody who likes using Bitcoin as money, that's where you can send it to. Like I said, I use Bitcoin as money every day on the mainnet and the Lightning Network. And I do appreciate it. Everybody on Rumble for the memberships for the fiat there. But you know, if you appreciate it, whatever side you're on, and again, I see some comments in there saying, at least gives me something to think about, because you don't want to listen to the same fucking person say the same thing every day. That's dangerous. That's a dangerous spot to be in. And I know I've been there before where like somebody's saying something that you agree with and you're like, yeah, I'm right about this. But it's like, you got to be careful. So that's just tread lightly here, I think. And man, I had a good part that I wanted to end it with today. But I did want to say thank you to two freaking legends. Actually, 3 today. We had Sharon B with 2 memberships. We had Letha, the icon, with a shot of espresso over on Zapstream. And we had Maria, who sent in a shot of espresso today. Our 3 biggest supporters of the day today. 3 women. Believe that or not. Sharon B, Maria, Letha. God bless you. Big shout out to Sin. Big shout out to Robert, Andre, Praetorian, Sats and Sunsets, Moro, and Chuck, along with David T, Plural, Sats and Sunsets, and Sin Deezy. And the last one here, Spaceman. Spaceman sent over 1,000 units of sovereignty here. So yeah, whether you're watching this now or later, if you appreciate this conversation, this is a way to to use Bitcoin as money. You can use Bitcoin as money if you want to. And that's a way to do it. And like I said, this is going to be the last time I talk about it. We're going to keep doing streams until the mandatory activation date. But I've said all I need to say. There was one last thing that I wanted to say, and it's probably going to eat at me all day now, because there was something that I wanted to say about it, but it slipped my mind. Too many thoughts going on up there, I guess. I'll give it 5 minutes. Go through these last comments, and then fuck. I don't know. I don't know what it was. Damn. Saylor is rich. You are poor. MSTR outperforms Bitcoin in every cycle. This cycle would not be different. You need to study more. And you see a little bit of everything here today. I do agree that Saylor is rich. I definitely am not poor or gay. Strategy will perform Bitcoin because that's how it's designed to work, just like it's underperforming Bitcoin right now. And I do probably need to study more. Everybody does. You ever get to a point where you feel like you know it all, you don't need to do anything else, then you're in a pretty dangerous position in life. Anyone know what happened to Nolan B? Nolan Bowerly? Yeah, he's still kicking. He's still on Rumble, I think. What was his show called? I like Nolan. Good Canadian guy. Very logical as well. You can't spell analogies without anal, which is the body part folks probably should remove their heads and look at both sides of this objectively. Sin with some bangers today. Banger comments. Yeah, but that's why analogy work, is because the average person understands it. And even though if it doesn't make perfect sense or is it relevant at all, that they just kind of like, they understand it, so they run with that. And I would say, like I said, Core's done a horrible job of communicating things. But again, here's the thing about policy versus consensus. Core can do all the dumb shit they want to do. That has no impact on Bitcoin. Core has no ability to change Bitcoin. Like, we understand that, right? Hopefully at the end of this conversation today, people know that Core has no ability to change Bitcoin. They can change the policy. They can change the filters. They can decide what they want for people who are running their implementation on their node, but they have no ability to change Bitcoin, just like knots. Like, the Core versus knots was a legitimate argument. They were two policies. People could decide what they want to run. But in this, people are still comparing Core to BIP-110. These are two different things. And I mean, if you don't even understand that, then you really have no business spewing bullshit online. But again, I'm not worried about it. Bitcoin is all proof of work based. If you want to change Bitcoin, you got to work pretty hard. And if there is an activation here and Bitcoin is changed, I'll eat my words. I will admit that I was wrong about Bitcoin. And you might not hear me say it, but you'll know it, that I'll based on my actions. Spam is part of the problem. Spam is part, but not all the problem here, buddy. Scam the inappropriate images of child is the main problem, because Mara and people that allows more bytes so images can be bigger forever. So the consensus today actually allows you to do that. Like Mara, the consensus is that you can put that on the chain. That's how it's always been. It's just the Core 30 had a filter so that the nodes didn't have to store that stuff. So the problem is not Bitcoin or the consensus of it. It's companies like Mara. It's people who would do that, but it still doesn't solve those images being taken in the first place. That's fiat. That's fiat. I try to stop calling people's names because it just makes me look overly emotional. Yeah, exactly. If you're labeling anybody as anything or calling them names, you're being emotional. Don't want to hear from you. Okay, I got to hit the road here, folks. Love and respect to all Bitcoiners. Amen. Hey, Fanny Packer's here. Fanny Packer is here. Good morning, Fanny Packer. Facts drawer, you're speaking facts. Thank you, Fanny. Great to see you. Don't vanish. We need voice that hammer home on running node self-custody, regardless of whether BIP-110 succeeds or not. Decentralization is the entire value proposition. Get it off exchanges. I mean, I won't be doing it like to prove a point. I'll lose all of my energy, all my momentum, all the passion that I have for this, if it can be changed that easily by something that doesn't make any sense or help anything. So it is what it is. I would say that there's a very, 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 very low chance of that happening. And even if it activates, I might still stick around anyways. But I would just say the likelihood of it happening. So anyways, that's it for today. It's a long show, probably too long. Like, it's a hard part. It's a hard thing to do. everybody wants the headlines. Everybody wants the easy analogies. Everybody wants that. They don't actually want to listen to people talk about it for hours, but you have to understand it if you actually want to make an informed decision. And I'm not ever going to tell you what to do or what not to do. If you want to run core or run knots or activate BIP-110, that's up to you. I'm never going to tell you what to do, and nobody should. Anybody who's saying you have to do this or Bitcoin's going to die, be a little bit wary of those people. And I do believe that, we're going to come out ahead on this. I think there's going to be a lot of good lessons learned between both the core versus knots and now the BIP-110 stuff. Because if we want to be a serious contender, if we really want to replace the fiat system, we kind of have to know what we're doing. And, it takes time. It takes a lot of time to understand it. And so I don't blame people for wanting to take shortcuts and cling to analogies and, be very emotional with it, but you're not helping anybody. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself. Yes, take care, everybody. No doubt. Thank you, Sharon B. Hope you remember it. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. I'm really not. DCA today. Yeah, we're actually, let me show this quickly. I actually spent some time yesterday. This was pretty late last night here, but I was like, I need to catch up on this. So I actually went through here and updated this all the way up till the 19th here, yesterday. So I got all these updated from the last month that I was missing on here. I also updated the DCAs from Duncan's here in the last couple of weeks, added those. And I also updated the Satrix from Jenny Legendary, Sats and Sunsets, Chuck, Captain, and Robert. So I updated all this last night. Fanny said, sorry so late, going to rewatch with family while doing laundry. Nice. Well, I hope you enjoyed today, Fanny. I tried my best to be level-headed throughout, even though there was a lot of, objections, and I wouldn't even say name calling, but lots of negativity, let's just say. And, I wish it wasn't this way, but it is. And again, humans being humans, can't change that. Humans are always going to human. My brother used to call me names before the last election. Wasn't fun. Yeah, whenever people are calling names, it's very unproductive. So what's your plan if BIP-110 is activated? You stop buying Bitcoin? You sell Bitcoin? Because it was so easy to change consensus? I probably wouldn't stop buying Bitcoin. I don't know. I would have to do some deep thinking and deep thinking on whether I want to keep holding Bitcoin or if I want to put it all into something like land. But I would never sell it for something else. I would never sell Bitcoin to buy, a stock or gold or something like that. It would either be Bitcoin or it would be land. And probably if I decided that Bitcoin was the better option, I would keep buying Bitcoin and I wouldn't sell any of it. But I wouldn't do what I do now. Because I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to sit up here and talk about how this network is, decentralized, it's censorship resistant, it's robust. I just wouldn't be able to do that. Because when a bunch of emotional people can change the whole consensus that easily, what's going to come down the road? So I would probably keep it. I might sell it and buy land, but I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I'd find something else to do. Caddy, walk dogs, sell Caesars on the beach. That's what I've always wanted to do, but I'd find something. I wouldn't be able to sit up here with a straight face and talk with the kind of energy and passion that I usually do. And so it wouldn't be a productive way to spend my life. $14.7K subscribers, and he doesn't have the first inkling of clue about Bitcoin. I freaking hate YouTube. I'm just trying to leave a parting comment and it floods me with ads. Yeah, well, that's why we're on Zapstream. That's why we are on Rumble. And we've been on Rumble for about 6 months now. We got almost we got a good crew over there. Usually there's like 50 or 60 people watching on Rumble. And it's nice because there's no censorship over there. You can say whatever you want. You can share links. You can swear. But yeah. This is really the I'm not going to give him any more attention. Bitcoin is the best option available to me at this income level. Everything else has been cut off. We'll be on Rumble double ASAP. Yeah, just search. I'll put the link in the YouTube here. Shout out to everybody on Rumble today. Shout out to all my my friends on Rumble today. I appreciate you all. And I know that it wasn't our usual stream today, but I appreciate you sticking around. And I appreciate the support. So here it is. I should be able to share this. Robert says, your beer this evening will taste extra good. Thanks for what you do. Cheers, Robert. I appreciate you, man. So yes, thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Sharon B. Thank you, Morrow. Sats and Sun says Praetorian. Andre, Robert, Cindeezy, Sharon B. again, Letha, Maria for the zaps. And to all who showed up. We actually didn't cover, I might have to change the subject of this one today. But I feel like it got people in here and got people engaged, and really that's what you want. These conversations should be very transparent, logical. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. And I'm not expecting everybody to agree with me. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I'm just trying to keep people's minds open more than anything else, and focus less on the hate, the black and white, the this versus that. We're all here for the same reason. We're all here to destroy the central banks. That's what Bitcoin is here to do. And people think that there's different paths to get there, and that's okay. That's okay. That's the beauty of Bitcoin, is you can have your opinion based on the knowledge that you have, based on the perception and your incentives. And if you have sats and you run a node, then you can vote with that. That's the beauty of it. Nobody can stop your vote. And as Bitcoin works today, nobody can stop your transaction either, which to me is a very big value prop of Bitcoin. And that's why I personally am opposed to BIP-110. And we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I think that on the other side of this, it's going to be a win for Bitcoin. There's going to be some more experience in Bitcoin to go through a war. You're a veteran now. If you got through this and survived, then you're a veteran. And it'll look different afterwards. I think either way, the landscape, everything will look a little bit different. But that's part of life. That's part of life. So, anyways, Since said, it's Monday. I have to do this for Brand. Say it with me. City of London. Funny thing about that, Sin, is I know Brand takes a lot of shit for that, but I actually agree with what he says with that. I think that the City of London has had their grip on a lot of the world, whether that's printing money or controlling resources or influencing the narrative. I really believe that they've been very, very evil and negative thing for our world. And I do think that they're currently being dismantled. And that's what I think we should be focusing on, is getting rid of that system and those people and those sick fucks, and not concerned about what people are paying money to put on a blockchain. They're band-aids. Even if you stop a few things from going on the network, it's a band-aid. And all the time and the energy we're wasting here is unproductive. So this is the last you're going to hear from me about this subject. Hopefully some of it made sense. And if not, that's okay too. Micah said, hopped on late. We'll watch the beginning to get the full picture. I hope you don't go anywhere, Jor. I'm not too worried about it, Micah. It's just, I'll feel differently about Bitcoin. It'll just be, I'll admit that I was wrong about it. I thought that Bitcoin could handle, angry mobs, emotional, but we'll see. Anyways, have yourselves a great day today. I love you all, even the people who are name calling and trashing me in the chat today. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye. City of London. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow, everybody.